Good evening, my people, my friends, my subscribers. Thanks for coming by the Hellcat Dogman channel. Once again, like I always say, reading is fundamental. And always, this is for entertainment purposes and historical purposes only. This piece we're going to do on Wade's champion, Sadie. Wade's champion Sadie was born July 12, 1986, bred by Edwards out of his China Buck bred to Edwards Miss JE34. China Buck was a son of champion Chinaman, Rom, and JE34 was out of Hargroves Rufus. Sadie was born on Edwards Yard in North Carolina, and she was the last puppy sold out of the litter. She was finally sold to Mr. Allen, who raised her until she was 3 years old. At this time, she had not turned on yet. She would fight real hard and bite real hard, but she would not scratch. Her owner was fed up with her and the people talking bad about her and was going to put her down. See, there's a key. It's a key lesson in that paragraph right there. And like I said, it's a lesson in patience, yo. You got to be patient with these dogs, cause she ain't really crank on to 3 years old. You know, that's what the process was back in the days. 3 years old, don't rush the dog. 3 years old, she turned on. Because if he would have got rid of her, wow, nice piece of history would have been gone. Anyhow, he called up breeder Edwards and told him he was going to put her down. Edwards talked him into selling the bitch back to him instead. About a week later, Edwards called me up and asked me if I was interested in her, as he knew that I had a half-sister of hers named Molly that was a hard-mouth one-time winner. I had heard what her previous owner had said about her, and I thought he had good judgment, so I was hesitant. Edwards made an agreement with me that if Sadie didn't work out, he would buy her back for me. He would buy her back for what I paid for her. So I bought Sadie for $250. She was a black bitch with a white chest and cropped ears. About 2 weeks later, I rolled her into a bitch out of my champion Rambo called Prissy, who was a very hard-mouthed bitch, but also would not scratch. At the 5-minute mark, Sadie was getting hurt bad in the legs and getting her chest worked over pretty good, and she let out a holler, jumped up, grabbed Prissy by the front end, and started shaking her back and forth. 10 minutes was all either dog could stand. Neither of them could stand up, and I had stopped it. After that, Edwards was really pleased about the dogs, and I figured I'd roll the dog a few more times and match her if I thought she looked right. About 6 weeks later, I went to Lee Triplett's yard and rolled her again. Lee was a good friend of mine, and I respect him a lot. He put a 42-pound bitch on her. Sadie weighed about 39 pounds, and Sadie scratched into the bitch immediately. At the end of 15 minutes, Sadie had worked the nose pretty good, hit bleeders in the front end, and really worked the dog over really hard. She scratched real good 4 or 5 times. After we stopped the roll, I asked Lee what he thought of the bitch. He said he wouldn't even roll her again. He just go ahead and put her and match her. He'd just go ahead and match her. I respected his opinion a lot, so that is just what I did. I started looking for a 38-pound female, and King Kennels had one they wanted to go with, and the match was set. They bought a bitch called Star that was known mainly as a good defensive bitch and very game. Sadie hit the front legs immediately. By the 15-minute mark, she had both Star's front legs broken, and one of them was completely gone. But Star kept scratching. We couldn't stop her. Sadie then went on to the gut, and Star was down deep in shock, and they picked her up at 41. Sadie lived up to my expectations by completely destroying that dog in 41 minutes. She looked real good and was ready for a second match. I could not get another match for her. Word had spread about how hard she can bite, and I just couldn't get her hooked. I decided to get a good friend of mine, James, to match her. He was the one who taught me how to condition a dog, so I knew he could take her and do a good job with her. Sadie was a kind of skittish dog, but I felt he could bring out the best in her. He said a key word in that sentence, skittish. Skittish is another kind of shy. So, like I said, man, y'all get all hype about these dogs doing all of this extra curriculum activity as far as, hanging from stuff and real, outgoing. Don't sleep on them shy dogs. That's all I'm going to say. Don't sleep on them shy dogs because that's what was going on then. And, that's just for the thought process to really ponder on what I'm saying about the shy dogs. When we finally found an opponent, Wild Side up in the mountains had seen the dog. We finally found an opponent, Wild Side up in the mountains. They had a dog of Wild Side's win. I had seen a dog of Wild Side win years before, a Bobby Hall Bully Son dog, and I didn't think much of the dog. I figured we had this one pretty much sewn up. Me, my girlfriend, and the late Barney Fife, James, all took the trip to the mountains. I was more excited to meet the old mountain man than I was about the match, as I heard so much about him. When we arrived at his place the day of the match, it was raining and kind of cold. We brought Sadie in the pit. She weighed about 1.5 pounds light, and she was acting a little skittish. While I was sitting there with her, rubbing her down to ease her a bit, I looked out the window and saw Wildside Kennels walking their bitch up the hill. She was a big red niggerino bitch and looked like about 44 pounds. I started laughing because I knew we were going to get the forfeit and I'll be taking my dog home. There was no way this bitch could make weight. They bought their bitch, Mean Jolene, and they brought their bitch Mean Jolene in and weighed her. She weighed in dead on 38, and I started sweating. This was the biggest 38-pound bitch I have ever seen, and she was not underweight. When those bitches were released, they hit hard, and right away, Jolene started driving. She was the first dog that I ever seen put Sadie on her back. I could see a whole lot of what was going on. I couldn't see a whole lot of what was going on. All I could see was Ed smiling at the spectators on their side and saying, "Looks good." And it did look good for their side. Jolene was driving and pushing Sadie all around on her back. I didn't see too much of what was happening until around the 10-minute mark when Sadie started coming up. She had done some damage on the head, but it didn't seem to slow down Jolene much. About 15 or 20 minutes, she finally got to the front legs and started working Jolene over. If it wasn't for Sadie's defense, she would have been killed early on in the fight. This is probably one of the best matches I've ever seen. Two hard-biting game dogs and good sportsmanship on both sides. Another key word, sportsmanship, both sides. And there's something else I'm going to go into that at the end of this reading. About 28 minutes, Wildside decided to pick their dog up to try and save her. When both dogs were asked to courtesy scratch, Mean Jolene was released, fell, got up, started again, fell, and Ed picked her up. A very game dog. Sadie was tail scratched by James. She wouldn't do any more damage to Jolene. Sadie's shoulder was badly hurt, so we tended to her immediately, and Wildside Kennels went to work on their dog. To this day, I regret that they lost her. She was a good bitch, and I really thought a lot of her. Sadie's third match was into a vindicator Zebo bitch named She-Ra. She had a reputation as a hard-mouthed chess dog, and I knew the people I was going into were going to be tough to beat. They knew what to do with a dog. Sadie's defense again comes into play. She spent the first 15 minutes fighting nothing but defense. She couldn't find nothing to drive into as She-Ra, as the She-Ra dog did a lot of the driving. About 20 minutes, it was a hot day. Sadie had her chance and got into the shoulder and went to work on it, slowly slipping her way down the leg. She broke She-Ra's leg around the paw and worked her way back up to the shoulder and started hurting it. The She-Ra dog would work into Sadie's chest whenever she got the chance, and Sadie would quickly switch right to defense to try and hold her out. At the 35-minute mark, it was She-Ra's turn to make the first scratch. Sadie had already scratched once. All right, let's go back. It was She-Ra's turn to make her first scratch, and she stood the line. That made Sadie a champion. I later sold Sadie to high-energy kennels who could not do anything with her because of inexperience with a good dog, in my opinion. They said she was a cur, but then again, they refused to match into her when I got her back. Sadie is just one of those dogs that's kind to people that treat her right, but she doesn't like strangers. Someone tried to break in our house once while Sadie was inside. I came home and found blood all over the house. The guy showed up at the hospital that night. He needed 20 stitches in his arm. If you take care of Sadie, she'll take care of you. I wish I had 10 more like her. Champion Sadie is now 6.5 years old and officially retired for breeding. She has been bred to wild size Lucifer, and those pups look good. Right now, she is bred to wild size Renegade, and I'm looking forward to getting some more good dogs off of her. All right. So this is what I wanted to add when I got into the sportsmanship side, when they said good sportsmanship on both sides. And I had heard about this in the 90s, this particular match. But one thing, that helped me grow, with my, as a dog person, into the dog, as a dog man, I really found out, we all want to win. We take losses, we take wins. But this particular match showed pure sportsmanship because afterwards, Wildside Kennels and Champion Sadie's owner, they did a couple of breedings together, And I guess, Champion Sadie's owner really thought highly of Mean Jolene because, like you said, in the paragraph it said she was bred to wild size Lucifer. Now, wild size Lucifer was from a repeat breeding that Wildside Kennels had acquired from, I think it was Townsend's. Yeah, Townsend's, but the Niggerino stuff that Terry Townsend had. And he bought Lucifer because, like I said, it was a repeat breeding. The breeding that produced Mean Jolene, they repeated that breeding, and they thought so much of Mean Jolene that Wildside went and got Lucifer, and also Champion Sadie owner thought so much of Mean Jolene, they decided to breed Sadie to Lucifer. And then they went back with Champion Sadie and bred her to Wild Sides Renegade. So my point being is that when you take the losses, don't let the betterment of the breed discourage you from making decisions. That's what I take from this. It's like, yeah, we lost, but we lost to a good dog. And if this, the sportsmanship being high, I don't mind adding what I just seen to my program. And that's basically what I'm trying to say. If you see something you like, hey, why not add it to your program? And that's why my hats go off to you know, Wildside Kennels and Wade for making those breedings like that. Even though they went into each other, hey, they still knew that it was all about the dogs. And you can check, it's some good dogs that came out. I'm gonna post some breedings over there, from some of the breedings that they did together, and you can see the offspring. Sadie turned out some pretty decent dogs when paired up with the wild side blood. So, like I said, I know in a perfect world, everybody all hungry dory, but all kumbaya, it's all friends. But we don't live in a perfect world. But like I said, sometimes, man, your ego got to get left at the door, and it's like if you see something you like in there, even if you take the L, it might be cool to just incorporate what you just saw into your own program. That's just my thought process. And like I said, hats off for those two cats for showing what sportsmanship is really about in the dog game. Because it's definitely something that's going by the wayside and it's slowly disappearing because everybody want to win. And if you don't win, the only option it seems like you got is to talk shit about the other people. So, lesson learned. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. This is, like I said, entertainment and historical purposes only. Reading is fundamental. Later.